Good evening, everyone. My name is GARVENCHY Nicholas, and welcome to the State of Our Black Lives here in GMGT.LIVE. So on this show, we'll be discussing current events, black culture, black entertainment, and of course, the state of our black lives. Today, we have two very special guests. First to my left, DABADY, and to my right, RODRICK COVINGTON. Amazing. So today we'll be discussing pretty much all things 2020, but specifically we're gonna be discussing the pandemic, the election, of course, coming up, and of course the protests all over the world, not only the U.S. but all over the world. For me particularly, it's been some adjustment for this year. First the pandemic and working from home, not being able to go out there and enjoy the summer how we used to. It's a new normal that they're calling a new normal, right? A lot of people have lost their lives. Unfortunately, a lot of people are getting sick, and doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon. So, to me, like I said, it's a new normal. Staying home, facing yourself, a lot of time in your hand, even though you're working, but you have this extra time in your hand. I've been able to, work on some new project, start writing again, start a new business as well. So there's some positive to it, staying at home and working out as well a lot more. So I'm gonna start with you, Demi. How are you adjusting to this new way of life?
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot. It's been a period of reflection. It's been a moment of pause. It's been just quite a few things. I can't even just sum it up in a couple of words, but I would say I've been adjusting by, like you, learning how to work with what you've been given. It's like when you're given, lemons, they say make lemonade out of lemons, right? As an educator, I did have to abruptly turn from being in the classroom to then just being remote. And that was a bit of an adjustment for my students and my parents. And it also called for me to sort of step my game up in areas of being just a little bit more intentional with checking in on students and not being so quick to judge if an assignment didn't come to me on time, like recognizing that there was a greater need out there, and that there are kids that are going through a lot, parents that were going through a lot, specifically with loss of jobs or loss of loved ones. So, I've just been adjusting by just keeping focused, putting out projects, engaging in what it is that I've been doing, staying focused, keeping my to-do list short and sweet, but checking it off nonetheless, and really just taking ownership of what I can be grateful for. So the periods that I feel like complaining, just ground myself and really just being grateful that I'm still here, that I feel as well, and that that we're still here. So,
Awesome.
So
How about you, Roderick?
Wow.
How are you adjusting?
She just made me real comfortable. I'll take up my mask with this. Well, this pandemic, wow, right? It has been a time, I will say, of new birth, because, as it's been a time of pause and like shutdown, I really, I can see there's been so many new ideas, new activations, and actually new babies being born.
Yeah.
Like I have about 6 different friends with new babies that are like pregnant or had a baby, like during this time. And for me, the pandemic, with all the lives that have been lost, I mean, 10 of my family members have tested positive for COVID in Florida, all in Florida. And a brother of mine was in the hospital for 2 months on the ventilator, and a brother-in-law was in a hospital for 3 months on a ventilator, and his entire right side, he has no mobility over it. So it's been difficult, but personally, it was a kind of a lifesaver for me, because before the pandemic, I was burnt out. I was burnt out because I own a fitness and nutrition company, and then I'm also an actor. And I was burnt out with doing shows, going to auditions, and running a fitness business. And then when everything shut down on Broadway, and and the studio, it was sort of kind of like, for me, it was kind of like a wake up, for me to really embrace my worthiness and stop trying to work for it.
Yep.
Stop trying to achieve value and really embrace, oh, I am valued and I don't have to work for it.
Yeah.
I don't have to work for it. I just get to be. And then with, you know, with seeing the death of Ahmaud, you know, Aubrey, and then George Floyd, and then Breonna Taylor, like something broke in me, and the only way that I could find kind of like solace and just like a way of it was, you know, because there was no church, so the only way that I could really go to church was being in the streets, and being in the streets for me was church. And then, you know, being called to like lead different protests was literally church for me, and chanting was a form of praise and worship for me, to really, like, you know, it's a war cry, you know, for justice. It's a war cry for radical love, which is, I think, what this country really is empty of right now, just radical love. I was listening to a podcast by Brent Brown before I came here, and she was interviewing the vice president, and he was just saying that, like, how many times do you just say thank you, or a day, or how many times do you just think about, like, just helping your neighbor, you know, because right now we're like, oh, I can't talk to my neighbor, or can't talk, you know, we're like just socially distanced, and I mean, not to jump ahead or whatever, or talk about politics.
We're gonna talk about that.
So I'll go.
Yeah. So one of the question, and it's based off the name of the show, I wanted to put at the end, but I want to put at the beginning to see where you guys' mind is. So the question for me, I'm gonna say what I think first is like you were saying, a lot of new things were born during this pandemic, and I really think it was a state of opportunities. Right, it was a state of opportunities, and I'm trying to, over the past 2 months, I've been thinking about it. I was like, a lot of people say, always have this plan when things get back to normal and everything. So my idea now is just like, let's not reach for normal, but better. Because there's a lot of things we are destructing, like whatever the norm was, for a better future, right? So to me, the state of our Black lives right now is in an opportunity bubble, and it's up to us to see which way it's gonna go. Are we gonna cave to what it was always been, or are we gonna keep fighting, even though it's not in the news, for a better tomorrow? So I'm gonna start with you first, Demi. What do you think is the state of our Black lives right now?
I think you and Roderick bring up several just really profound thoughts, right? I think this pandemic has been a moment of reflection for many, and it's also been a birthing season for others. As I reflect and I think about the state of Black lives, it's really difficult to sort of capsule that response because it has so many layers. It's kind of like an onion being peeled. But what I will say that the state of Black lives has always been in some sort of crises, right? It's only just been manufactured differently from era to era, from season to season, from year to year. This particular year, 2020, I feel has been the uprooting, the exposing, you know, just shining that flashlight on what could be, what has been, what has not worked, and the potential for us to move forward. So when I think of Black lives, and I think of the people, and I think of what you mentioned, Roderick, with the protests being a war cry, and really people trying to find their place in terms of law and justice, and, you know, just a lot of revisions that we need in the system, right? Systemic revisions, economic revisions. It's been on that level. And then creatively, you know, our people are creative. We're dope, right? And so there's always this talent that sort of is oftentimes just put to the side because we have to be in that sort of go mode, and we have to work, and we have to get a good job and get a good education. And so I think this year was the year of busting the myths of so many things. We've recognized that there's some vocations and some jobs that can cause us to work from home, which then just settles our mind and creates a little bit more stability with parents being home with their children, and you know, a fostering of more love and more gratitude. However, we are in a season of reflection, and out of that reflection, there is the moving forward positively, right? And the rebirthing, what we call like maybe a Black Renaissance. And it's okay for it to happen continuously. It's okay for it to happen in my generation, my children's generation, and children to come's generation. It's okay for that to happen. We don't need everything to happen in this moment, but I do feel there's an opportunity for renaissance and there's an opportunity for reparations, and not in the sense of, hey, political figure, please cut me a check, but more so, let's begin to take ownership of what is ours, and this is our land, and we built it.
Right.
Okay, so we get to reap the fruits and benefits of what we've built, and perhaps now we're being able to see our reflection in the mirror a little bit more clearer. So I'm hoping that that's
what you got, Rodrick. What you got? She just killed it. What you got?
Talk to me, Rodrick.
What is the state of our Black lives, Rodrick?
So the state that we're in, it is, I mean, it's kind of the state, I feel like a holding state. I mean, yes, you know, like a rebirth, but I feel like we're in a holding state where we're right on the verge of a breakthrough. But the thing about a breakthrough, before any breakthrough happens, there's a breakdown.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what this pandemic, you know, in this summer has been. It's been like breaking down and us seeing that the systems that have been built, you know, they are working. They are working, you know, to like literally, you know, disproportionately, you know, brutalize Black and brown people across America, to continually to put Black people in the system of modern day slavery. Like that's the way that the system was designed. And so the breakdown has to come with the system breaking down, the system coming down, so that we can have a breakthrough, so that we can have equity, you know, across the board, because you know, I mean, just from the top to the bottom, politically, there has to be this systemic change. We cannot operate the way that we have been going
before.
We can't, you know, and so right now it's just it's that holding, and because like we're all like, okay, so what is going to happen in the next 2 weeks with this election? Right?
We're gonna talk about that later too.
And so I kind of feel like, you know, in the 60s there were like the death of Emmett Till, that the open casket was exposed, and then people saw it, you know, and then there was a reaction from America, you know, and so it's a cycle. The same thing with happened with George Floyd. You know, there was a reaction. So it's sort of kind of a cycle where, but at this time it was larger, because, you know, instead of us actually seeing the death of Emmett Till, you know, people saw just, you know, the aftermath. People saw the actual death, the murder of George Floyd. Everyone saw it, and everyone who didn't see it, they heard about it, they know about it.
They know about it.
You know, so you can't, you know, turn away, and that literally sums up the Black experience in America, because of the weight that America has had on our neck. You know, and so with what my sister is saying is that we help build America, and so now this is our time, and this is our time to really reap and to really see ourselves in the mirror of America looking back at us, and so that we can have equity across the board.
Yeah, amazing, man. So to me, during that same week, we had the whole Amy Cooper incident.
Oh yeah.
And then we had George Floyd next week. And Breonna Taylor was before, but I just heard about it during that same week as well. So to me, protesting, I've always seen it. I was indifferent about it. I've never participated in it. I've never given it about bad mouth or a good mouth. Just like it just happening, right? And being from Haiti, we know what true protesting is. Unfortunately, it gets ugly, right? So growing up, because I grew up in Haiti till I was 12, 13, growing up, going to a protest, meaning you're putting your life on the line. You know, if you say I'm going out there, what I believe in, I'm putting my life on the line for it. And I don't know if I'm coming back. So after I watch George Floyd, and this is the first time, because we've seen a lot of them, right? Unfortunately, after I watched the video and I stayed for the whole 8 minutes and 40 seconds, like I had chills, man. I couldn't move from the state I was in. And then I was like, all right, like it was just like out of body experience. I called a meeting with my foundation synergy today, and we were mostly focused on volunteering, like, you know, like inspiring people to volunteer in the community, soup kitchen, you know, with New York Cares, stuff like that. And I was like, what just happened is bigger than us, is bigger than whatever our aim was to help. And we need to do something. Yeah. Right? And that's how never organized a protest. We were just talking about that. Never organized a protest in my life. Never spoke to anybody that organized a protest. And then one of our new members, she was like, "You need to organize a protest. I don't know where you're gonna start, where you're gonna get your permit, but you need to organize a protest." I'm like, and he was like, "And you got a week, cause this just happened. So we have a week to organize a protest. We need to make it aware to everybody." So first thing, we did a flyer, posted up on Instagram, and then we started sending it to different pages. And one of the major pages, Justice for George Floyd NYC, they picked up a flyer, and then we started getting a lot of inquiry about like where is this protest and everything. So we had the protest in Columbus Circle. We started there, and then we walked down to City Hall. This was my first protest. I showed up, and I thought I was gonna be the first person there, and it's gonna be like 40, 50 people. Showed up, it was like at least 200 people waiting for me. And that was like 30 minutes before start time.
Wow.
So I'm like, wow, okay. So now you just like, you have to be a leader. You have 200 people waiting for you, and then they just looking at you. You're like, all right, so what's next? Yeah. So basically, did a speech in the beginning, and then it hit me. He was walking down, I think it was 6th Avenue, and I was up front with a few of my members, and then NYPD was coming, and I was like, this is the moment. Like, it was like everything, I skipped everything from that moment when I saw what happened to George Floyd to that main moment, being in the street. I was like, who would have ever thought that I'd be in a protest? But it was not even about me. I was just moved to be out there, right? So when you were speaking about how this became like a church for you, definitely understand it. So to me, it was important to be in the street. And that was the first one we did by ourselves, and then we started. That's where I met you. This is the one we started doing United New York, and then I started organizing a few from the back, from the behind the scene, not really being in the street, just sometime in the street, sometime behind the scene. So to me, it was very important. George Floyd was the breaking through for me to be out there. So I'll start with you first. Why do you think it was important? And I know you led a lot of protests, because I've been part of a lot of the protests you led, and his energy is incredible.
I can tell.
His energy. This guy led us from a protest from Brooklyn to Central Park.
I'm not surprised.
Not just like regular walking, because me, when I got to like 42nd, I'm like, nah, B.
I'm done. I'm done.
Like, nah, I'm like, I think this is the time I take the train. Come back tomorrow. My guy was chanting, singing, and just like going, just strong emotion all the way to Central Park. So my question to you is like, why was it important for you not only to be out in the street, but to accept the role as a leader in the street?
Well, first of all, that process that you led, I just realized that I was in that. I actually,
no way.
Yeah, because I came up. It was just random. Like I came up on 42nd Street, and then you guys were like passing 42nd Street, you know, on 6th Avenue going down, and I was like, I'm gonna join, and I just started marching with you guys, and then you walk all the way down onto like Canal, and then you make that left, and I was like, wow, they are going like far, you know. But I was, and you had kneeled down at some point.
I did. You know. We kneeled down in front of the quote.
Yes.
Quote.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you led that.
I led that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you know, and I was just doing that randomly, like just going to different, you know, just walking. You know, I didn't want a microphone at all. I just wanted to just be out, because that was my church for me. I mean, I went to different other protests that would just literally would just prayer walk, would just like prayer walk and just pray, you know, and I wouldn't say anything. I would just be with them, because for me it was just cathartic. because I was just so exhausted, and I was sad sitting home watching the news, you know, because that's all that I could do. I mean, I was like teaching class from home, but then after like 2-3 classes, it was like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, so I would go in the streets, and so when it came time for me to, I guess, like lead protests. First of all, shout out to Cleve,
we were just talking to him
and Elena from Unite NY, who are exceptional leaders. But when it came time for me to lead in June, within my company, we have a mantra every month. We have a mantra every month where we meditate and every day on that mantra. And so the mantra for June was say yes. So it was say yes for 30 days in this month. So anything that anyone asked me in June, I just said yes to.
Oh.
And
dangerously to live your life.
I just said yes to. In June, I just said yes to. And it literally changed my life.
Wow.
Because, you know, I had never led or organized any type of protest, and neither did I before June, neither did I think or imagine that I would.
I feel the same way.
There was it wasn't in my mind to do so, but you know, one of my good friends, Will, who is Asian, Chinese, and he asked me to help him organize an Asians for Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, my husband is Asian, so you know. But why can't he help you do it? You know what I mean? But he was like, you know, you bring the black people, and I bring the Asian. I was like, okay. I mean, okay. So then Opal Mehdi, who's one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, she's also a client. So I text her. I say, yo, I think I'm about to organize this protest. What do I do?
Where do I start?
Opal was like, you got it. Like, I was like, wait, what?
You got it.
Send. Like, done. And I was like, no, okay, that's it.
What it is. Yep.
So then, you know, we did the whole Instagram, Facebook thing, calling, you know, the flyer, and it was in Washington Park. And we were expecting like 500. We was like, we gonna get it in, you know. And we got to Washington Park. There was nobody there. There was nobody. And
I thought you was gonna say that.
There was nobody there. There was nobody. I mean, we got there an hour early. There was nobody there. And Will was like, okay. He was like starting to freak out. He was starting to freak out, and I was like, Will, let's go over and let's go pray. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you know, because he was like, he was like, well, I mean, like, ain't nobody in here. You know what I mean? I was like, let's go pray. You know, because one, this ain't about us.
That's true.
This ain't about us. And, you know, like, we don't have to, you know, like, make sure the people here. Once we start, the people will come. You build it, they will come.
Because we started with 200, we ended with like 1,500.
Exactly. It was nobody there.
Yeah.
And then we started.
Yeah.
We started, and I started speaking, and then when I started speaking, I just closed my eyes because I was like, I'm speaking to nobody. But but then when I opened it was like 500.
Wow.
And then it was 1,000, and then it was 2,000, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing to where literally you couldn't see the back. But the energy of activation was really palpable, and you know, like, because a lot of people are saying that, oh, the protests are dying down, and I don't think the protests are dying down. What I think is the protests right now is just looking for direction.
Yes.
People are just looking for direction.
What's next?
What's
clarity,
next?
yeah.
Because, you know, it's all good and dandy to protest, but we have to be specific of what we're protesting about.
Yeah.
What are the demands, and what do we want now?
That's right.
As opposed to just protesting.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy that it was not only happening on the U.S. Because he was watching on the news. It was happening all over the world, and what's remarkable, and a lot of people always misunderstand this, that racism and police brutality is not only in the U.S.
Correct.
Right? So that brings me to my next segment, which is what's happening in Nigeria right now. It's police brutality itself. So before I give you guys my thought, Demi, I want to ask you, how do you think protesting has affected everything that's been happening in 2020? And do you think it works? Do you think protesting works?
You know what? I will say that protest is like many other remedies. they work in conjunction with something. It can't be the be-all, can't be the end-all. It's cumulative, right? What I will echo, though, is that when you are watching these visuals on television and you know that something inside of you have broken, and you know that others have come before you that have sacrificed their lives, that have marched, that have gotten dogs set on them and fire hoses, that was my initiation to say, nah, I got to get out there. I have to be in the streets, right? And many people might say, like, it's of no use, it's no point, or if you go out there, you better be ready to risk it all.
Yeah.
And all of it is important, right? I'll take all of it. But what I will say is, I feel like this game of social justice is one in which we all have to just play our position, right? There's some people on the field. There's some people in the batting cage. There's some people that have to send the emails out. You know, there are those that have to be inside praying, right? The elders praying. And the young people who are sort of like rebels that are like, nah, it's not, you know, nah, that's it, right? That's the end. The way in which I feel like it has affected or activated something globally is not by accident, because there are many injustices that are either very verbal, very visual, very adamant, and then there are some that are sort of just hidden under the crevices that are not awakened unless something like that happens. So when you get a George Floyd incident that automatically just sparks a flame, you know, across the country, across nations, it's not by accident. And I don't believe that things that are happening in this moment are by accident either. I feel like there is a divine orchestration of what we needed to see, of what we needed to feel, of what we needed to process, and what we need to initiate moving forward. So I do believe that it serves its purpose. Protesting serves its purpose, just like getting in someone's face who disrespected you, right? That might serve its purpose at that moment, or perhaps taking the back seat and saying, let me just be observant and perhaps take pictures of the times, because I have friends that are doing that now, or writing and just scribing their way through what has transpired throughout 2020. So it's not the be all end all. It definitely is a culmination of everything that is happening, but I absolutely honor it because I know that others have died for me to have the privilege to do so. That's
right.
You know, freely.
And people are still dying by doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the things, very interesting documentary I watched, I don't know if you guys watch it on Netflix, Social Dilemma.
About Instagram and yes, I have watched this.
So
it's interesting.
I'm almost scared to watch it.
Yeah, so I watched it, right? So I had already had a feeling this was going on, but it just confirmed it to me. So like in your page, for example, for me on Instagram, we just had the playoffs. So right now, if you go to my explore page, all you're gonna see is LeBron and the Lakers and everything. The reason why is over the past few days, I've been liking what's been going on in the NBA, right? So the week before that, the month before that, it was all protest stuff. Why? Because I was posting pictures of protesting, I was liking protesting stuff. So then I started thinking, there's a group of people that, you know, they always Blue Lives Matter, and then you have Black Lives Matter, right? So I had these two events, very interesting event over the summer, Zoom event, where I had activists in a panel with retired police officers, right? So it was two different point of view. And the last one we had, it was in partnership with my alma mater, St. Thomas Aquinas College. The last one we had, one of the retired cops told me something very interesting. It was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm coming in with a bias. You coming in with a bias, right? I'm a former police officer. My dad was an officer. My son is an officer. Like, I'm coming in with a bias that I just gotta be here and listen to what you're saying and try to understand, and I could tell you my point of view. So, but it was like the problem a lot of the time is we come in thinking that our side is right without knowing or admitting that we're coming in with a bias. And I say all this because if you have, me like myself, if I'm liking all things Black Lives Matter, the protests, that's all I'm gonna see. That's all the information I'm gonna see. On the other side, if you have the son of a police officer, who's a police officer, liking Blue Lives Matter, did you see what happened in this protest where the people were looting? That's all I'm liking, that's what I'm commenting. That's all I'm going to see. Wow. Right? And so that documentary just confirmed that to you.
Right.
They show you exactly what you want to see.
Right.
And then to bring it even further, we don't do it on purpose, we're just programmed to do that. We watch the news that we agree with. Right? We sometimes speak to the people that we know they're gonna agree with what we're saying and everything. And the other side, opposite of us, do the same thing. Right? So it's just like, I feel like social media had this very powerful thing. It's a very powerful reason of a lot of things that's going on, that we are brushing off the power of social media. So that's leading up to my question, and Rodrick, you could go first. How do you think social media is affecting the progress for Black Lives Matter?
Very, very interesting. So I did watch The Social Dilemma.
Okay.
And when I watched it, and they were, I don't want to give it, should I talk about it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I watched it, and they were talking about how like they market different things to you, you know, and they can hear you through your like phone or whatever. Because you know how like when you have a conversation about a blow dryer or whatever, and then you go on social media and there's a blow dryer like, you know, like sponsored commercial, whatever, like the best one that you need, right? And I was like, yeah, I don't buy things like that. Like I don't do that. That's what I was thinking when I was watching it. Turned it off, and then like the next day, there was this like the bevel black man razors.
Yeah.
It was they start advertising it on Instagram, and I was like, ooh, got to eat this. Because you know, I've been using the black man shaver for years, which is Magic Shave. You probably don't know about that. You're too young for that. So I've been using. Oh, it's good. Look here, it have your skin looking baby smooth. I mean, you ain't got no.
You're the ambassador. Look at you.
You don't have any ingrown. It's good. But it just takes long and it smells. So I was like, but the bevel, and I bought it.
Wow.
I bought and it sucks.
It
sucks. I know. I took the bait off of Instagram, and it was, and I was like, oh my God. So, two things. Yes, I mean, the social media definitely does affect, you know, it has affected the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, that's why we had like the blackout. We had a blackout or whatever, but then people were tagging the wrong thing, so then you know, it got real complicated.
That was a disaster.
It was a disaster, you know, because then like, you know, Blue Lives people was doing it, and then it was just, it got all mixed up. So, but yeah, but in one way, it's the only way that some people have been like keeping up with their news and keeping up with different protests and keeping up with, you know, just different information.
Notifying about the protest.
Notifying.
How we got like 400, 500 people coming out.
It's one way how so many people saw the brutal, you know, murder of George Floyd and so many other things, and you know, so that's one. But then another thing, you're right. It only shows you like what you basically have agree with and your friends and that whole kind of circle. So there is a lot of manipulation there, you know, within that system. I have no idea what the answer is concerning social media. I mean, I do personally like to take social media like pauses and like breaks just to be present. And really connect with people and connect with myself. I like to stay connected to who Rodrick is without the social media, but I mean, so I think it does, you know, it's a two-way.
And it has everything with their good have their bad.
Yeah.
About you, Demi?
I feel the same way. I feel like it has its benefits, and it has its pitfalls where then you begin to associate images with real life, or you know, you're not connecting with self. You know, so some people feel like they need to be on it 24/7. They have to show what they eat. If they sneeze, they got to take a picture of them sneezing, right? Like it's just extra at times. And so it is important that we recognize the tool that it is, use it as that, and to sort of keep that detachment away from real life. And what I mean by real life is just simply being connected with self, being connected with humans, having a real conversation, right? Like tapping into yourself, and not leave it up to algorithms to figure out what you like, right?
Yes.
Yes, because like even I hope you get the chance to watch it, because even in there they tell you that their whole purpose is for you to stay on there. So they will do whatever it takes, like whatever notification to tell you like, hey, so and so just post a picture. Okay, I don't care.
Right,
What are you telling me?
Right.
But their whole technique to bring you on there.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
Speaking of social media, I've been really following the whole thing that's going on in Nigeria on social media, and came across this lady, very passionate. That was this video, and she said this quote. I wanted to share it tonight. I just added this before the show. It says, "God will not do for us what He has giving us the capacity to do." Right. So my whole thing is, I always, like I mentioned before, a lot of people thought that, some people do think racism and police brutality is a United States issue, but it's a worldwide issue, right? So my thing has always been, I believe we could fight to end systemic racism, but I'm one of the people that think racism itself is going to be around forever. I believe racism is going to be around forever, but at the same time, we have the power, even though you don't like me, to understand that I have the right to sit at this table, right? If we're going to have a country that function, we both have to have the same opportunity. I don't have to like you. You don't have to like me, right? But we need to work together for a better nation, right? So that's my belief. Do you guys think, and I'll start with you, Demi, do you guys think, the same thing do you guys think we can end racism or systemic racism? Do you think we could end both, or is it a mission that we're just running on a treadmill, never gonna get into?
Yeah, it's something to think about. It's something to reflect. I don't know if I'm okay with the term "end," right?
Yeah.
Only because this is really built into the fabric of our country in so many different areas, right? What I will say is perhaps we can reform it. We can modify how it shows up, meaning, I have the right to be at this table. I have the right to have that same opportunity, and I'd like to start the race at the same starting point that you have started the race, right? And that is something that I think Black people have been calling for an extremely long time. It makes me think back of like this 13th Amendment about us being free, right? And we know that we have to really use quotes around that because it is not manifested as such. And then we go about when Blacks were given the right to vote. But prior to that, there were so many hindrances, right? From literacy tests that needed to be taken, discrimination at poll sites. There were just so many obstacles, and it just feels as though it's never been fair game. And so this idea of ending racism or ending systemic racism, I think that we have some major powerful voices on the front line, and I think that we should not only lean to leaders, but we can also elicit ourselves as leaders as well, right? Like, I am a leader in my pocket, in my world, in whom I influence and who I come in contact with. So we all need to sort of activate our own individual power and figure out how we can advocate for those that may not be able to advocate for themselves. Or a couple years ago, I was working at a high school as a program director, and these students got together with their history teachers to protest the fact that the question that was asked on their regions was biased. It just ensued some sort of racism, and they were like, no, this is not, but this is not okay. But the reason I bring that up is because they knew that they had the power to speak out against that, right? And sort of present that to the Board of Regents and figure out how we can modify or make history that's not reflective as us just being slaves, right? Like, there's so much more to who we are and what we've contributed to this nation, and globally, right? So, and I wouldn't say end. I'd say perhaps reform, perhaps modify. I'd like to see a world that my son grows up in where he can feel like, oh, I'm good here too, I don't have to come home at a certain time, or I can put my hoodie on, you know what I mean? And
be all right.
These are the things that I'm hoping that we can
could do.
Yeah.
How about you, Ed?
Love that. Very interesting. When it comes to racism and what you just said, I think it has to do more with, for me, is understanding the dynamic power structure, because money talks. I mean, have we ended homophobiaism? People hating gay people?
Yeah.
We ain't into that.
Yeah.
But you see us getting married. And everything else, right?
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something, gay people, you've gotten together and you have people lobbying, and you have like white gays with money. They have been lobbying, and they are really intentional about who they are like voting for and activating and galvanizing. You know what I mean? And so I feel like with us, I mean, black and brown people, I think, you know, we need to get together and really be specific about like what we're doing and our demands, and like really raising money, because I mean, at the end of the day, America is really, it's about the money. You know, it's about the yes, it's hate, but it's about the money. It's about the dollars, and I think that it could have a dynamic paradigm shift once black people, black businesses, you know, you start putting money into black people's pockets, and then, you know, we have black people lobbying for black people, for black businesses, for black government. So that we can have the laws in place so that there is equity, because can racism, you know, end? I think to have love and experience love, I mean, there has to be, you know, you have to know hate. Yeah. You have to know what hate is, you know, to really experience the love. And you know, racism is a form of like hate. Wrapped in fear, right, and insecurity. But I really think that what she said, modified reform. I feel like we do that with the dollars, with the money, and what we're doing with our money. I mean, this is honestly, this is the first year that I've donated money, you know, to
a very good point.
A political, you know, candidate, which I don't even. He's not the answer.
I would
Trust.
say the same thing.
That's not. He's not the answer. But you know, I want to be intentional with what I'm doing with my money, because I know that money moves the needle at the end of the day. That's really how 45 really got there. It's money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with both of you guys. And it's you just say something really important. It's a form of hate. For you to have love, you're gonna have to have hate. So that's like saying, you know, like, oh, you're gonna end hate. You know?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, because I never thought about that.
I
never thought about that. And when you said it, it kind of like, oh.
Can we?
Right. But even, you know, to have light, you got to have the darkness. You have to have the darkness, and the darkness is okay. The dark, you know, I tell friends all the time when they're like telling people, oh, if you agree with this, whatever, then just unfriend me now, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. We need the conversations. We need to be able to talk to people who disagree with us, who hate us. We need to have the dialogue.
So like that, what you just said was very important. The last event I told you we had with the activists and the law enforcement, the whole idea when they came to me for the college board, it was like, we want to show these kids, because they upstate, primarily white students, and we want to show these kids you could have the conversation. You don't have to like, don't talk to someone, unfollow someone because they posting something different than what you posted. Right. So that's very important. I think a lot of the time we just so extreme, like to the right or to the left, so we don't want to have the conversation at all. And also doing that event, what I was saying is like, in the street, there's no really, like I'm talking about the protest, there's no talking. It's either action or somebody screaming at you. There's no in between. There's no in between between the cops and the protesters. It's either the protesters screaming or the cops screaming, or there's action. It's usually bad action. Exactly. So I think to conclude that point, is just like, we need to have this conversation. We need to, even now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'll watch half Fox News, half CNN.
100%.
Right? I used to watch CNN the whole day, but I said, no, I can't do that. I need to know what's going on in Fox News. I need to know the whole picture, and then I'll make my own decision.
And we are living in two different realities. Two different Americas. It is two different. It's like, and it's kind of mind-boggling.
It is.
The extreme, like there's no middle.
There is.
I feel like there used to be a middle.
I thought so.
But now it's just like,
I don't feel a middle at all.
Two different extremes, and I, you know, because I have a friend who I mean, he's a friend. He was used to be a client, and he's a friend, and he is voted for Trump, and we talk almost every day. Sometimes I have to be like, you know what?
Not today.
Not today, just because it is an energy that is hard to deal with and to hear, because I mean, a lot of it is racist. Like it's just point blank like racist.
Yeah.
And he does not like see it at all.
That's what I was gonna say. A lot of time when I have those type of conversations with somebody on the opposite side, it's like you're looking at the person in the eye. It's like they are not seeing what I'm saying at all.
No.
Like there's like a wall that they can't go over.
The luxury of
it's just like,
you know,
Yeah.
so.
Right. And what they're saying, you know, I honestly am like trying to understand. I mean, he sends me stuff. He like tags me and stuff, and I'm like, don't be targeting me. But you know what? I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna watch this whole video that I know they talk about some book, you know. But I'm gonna watch it. And then I'm going to, you know, express to you, you know, okay, what it really is.
Yeah.
But it's just two different realities. And I mean, do you think like, how do you think we got here, or have we always been here? I don't know, because I don't know.
Honestly, I know when 45 got elected, a lot of people were like, oh my, because I was like, I was like, oh my God.
Did you vote?
I did vote.
Okay.
I did.
Because you know, a lot of us did not vote. Black people did, but please vote, because we didn't vote.
Yeah.
You didn't vote.
As soon as Hillary was taken off the ticket, a lot of people said, I'm not going to vote, right? They didn't like who's left over, but you still have, like, I think, your civil duty to vote, right? I mean, and we can talk about the Electoral College and so many other things.
That's a whole different.
It's like with protesting, someone fought for me to be able to do this, and I have to give honor to that, and I have to give respect to that. And even if I may be choosing from a rotten apple to a dented apple, I got to pick an apple regardless, right? I'm going to have to choose an apple. Yeah,
so like, we're going to get into the election later on, but I wanted to say that when that happened, yes, it was terrible, but this like blunt like racism and craziness is just like, all right, maybe we needed to get this out of the way. Like we needed to dive into this conversation, this period that we're going through right now, to really get to see where we're living at. Like what's the reality of America, where we're living at. So in a weird sense of way, I'm kind of happy this happened, so you could see the two different America that we live in, like we were saying. But we're gonna speak about the election later on to conclude the night. But I wanted to dive into you guys, like, you know, personally, about what you're working on and everything. Something more lighter than we've been speaking about. So for Demi, I know you're a teacher.
Yeah.
What do you think, being a teacher, what's the role of being a teacher? How is it affecting what's going on right now? Like, what do you think is the role of a teacher when it comes to what's going on right now?
Well, I think the primary role is to not pretend like nothing is happening, right? And so when this happened in the middle of March, it erupted what we were doing in the classroom, and of course preparations for state exams. And immediately I had to switch my mind to thinking, if I was a middle schooler during this time, what am I thinking? What am I processing? What am I digesting? What questions do I have? So I gave my students the forum to sort of freely share openly and honestly about how they're, you know, how are they processing the times right now? And the worst thing that we can do is assume that young people do not have a voice, right? They have something to say. They feel things, you know, and if you're not careful about how to just orchestrate a conversation that really makes them feel valued and seen, then they can be the detriment of them. And so it was very critical for me to say, we're not going to play pretend and get to the math problem. What we're first going to do is just check in. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? And they share openly and honestly. And I think it's also important that educators you are not the checker of what's good and what's bad. You are only, in my opinion, encouraged to allow young people to share and simply process, because what we have a tendency of doing is, really, your parent voted for so-and-so? That's crazy. Or I can't believe that. Really? Your household did that? That's insane. Or you believe Blue Lives Matter over Black Lives Matter? Or what? Like, we offer opinions and suggestions when we really just need to listen and sort of just let let people process, let the young people process. So as an educator, I think you have the role of influencing a young life. You have the role of also exposing them to truth, right? So you can say, hey, if I were you guys, I checked this out. Or have you read this article? Or I made the content more so about what was happening. So if they needed to give me a short response, if they needed to write an essay, if we had a math problem, if we had any scenario where I can sort of infuse what's happening into the curriculum, then it allowed their learning to be a little bit more of substance, in my opinion. Yeah, the role of an educator, I feel, at this current moment is to not play pretense. It's just to be real. And yes, I'm not an administrator who can sort of stand at the door and give checks and balances as to what I allow. But I was feeling some type of way about the Pledge of Allegiance, you know? Because the ending said, with liberty and justice for all. And I had posted, can someone explain to me who is all, right? Who is all in that liberty and justice for all? Because clearly it's been liberty and justice for some, right? And so that has just been a spot for me that I'm working through, because I recognize that this country has allowed my immigrant family and parents to come here and build a life, and I'm grateful for that. But I also want us to be reflective, right? We have to be reflective, and being reflective causes you to be real and deal with that shadow self, which says, is it really justice for me? Is it really peace for me? Up until what point, right? Is it okay for me to be in corporate until I wear braids or have my hair locked? Like when is it for all? What's the line that I'm accepted in? So yeah, I just think it's really critical to not ignore what's happening, to make it present, make it visible, and make it relevant to their everyday experience. Yeah.
So, in case you guys didn't know, you both are singers. Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you both are singers.
Where are you teaching? I want to be your student. I wish I had a teacher like that. Man.
So the first time I realized he was a singer, so we had this protest. 8,000, 10,000 people?
Crazy.
Ridiculous. Probably the biggest one I guess we was part of.
I'm ready for what Rodrick did. I'm ready.
And then, you know, I was part of the organizer. I'm like right behind Rodrick.
He was right there.
Right behind him. And then they passed him the mic and they were like, all right, Rodrick's about to sing. Lift up your voice.
Which I didn't know. I didn't know I was about to sing until 1 minute before, because Cleve, he didn't tell me.
Yes.
You know, he was like what?
On the spot?
On the spot, he was like, you're gonna sing Lift Up Your Voice. I said, huh? Oh God, okay.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I would have gotten so nervous.
Yeah. So,
I was
but the one thing I like you did, of course your voice is main, you killed it. But you didn't just sing along to it like by yourself. You sang a part and let the crowd really kind of teaching the crowd word for word the Black National Anthem, which was amazing. So that was my first one. And then you know what I did when I went home? I was like, yo, I gotta Google this dude.
Lord.
I gotta go on YouTube and see what this dude's been up to. Guess what I found?
Oh God. Oh Lord.
So I watched this performance. Wow. If you're out there, from 8 years ago.
Oh God.
I gotta see it now.
You gotta see it. It's amazing.
That's
so I'm
amazing.
like, damn, okay. This guy's for real, for real.
Bless you.
Yes, but I want to go back. What was that moment like? For me, it was emotional. It was a very emotional moment. I was right behind you, just looking at the view of over 10,000 people.
So many people.
Wow.
And you singing that, you're just like, I'm like, wow, I'm just lucky to be here.
Wow.
To be part of that moment. What was that moment like for you?
It was a God moment, because first I didn't have any idea. Like Cleve, was just like you.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because Cleve is literally, Cleve, I love you. He's a baby. Like he's a baby. But I look to him as my leader.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like he is our generation's sort of kind of like Martin with Malcolm mixed in. Like there is just so much greatness in him. I mean, when the first time when I had a conversation with him, I just was like, okay, whatever you need me to do,
I'm gonna do it.
you got it. And so that moment for me was more of a teaching moment as opposed to like, okay, I'm gonna perform.
Got it.
Because I love to perform and I love to like go in, but for me that moment, seeing the colorful sea of people. Okay, most people hadn't even heard of it.
Yeah.
There was some faces like
had never, they didn't even know that there was a Black National Anthem.
Yeah.
You know, and so for me, it was like, okay, it was a teachable moment to teach, and a lot of people was like, wow, I'm so glad that I learned that.
Wow.
Because that's another thing at protests that we like to do. We like to give moments where we are teaching people. We're teaching people, you know, about history and about, you know, why we are doing things, and so that was what that moment was about. You know, let's teach the people. And the end of that song says, let us march on till victory is won. And that really struck me when we sang that, because it was like
the park exploded when he said that part, when he ended that song. The park just went crazy.
I feel goosebumps right now.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing to watch.
yeah, we can't stop, like, until victory. And what does victory look like?
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what we were talking about. What do we want? Like, what exactly do we want?
Yeah.
The attention of what you want.
Wow.
So, like I said, Demi's also a singer. So I went, I followed Demi on Instagram, and we met. I'm part of this, you know, social group, the Gentleman Factory for Black Men. Amazing group.
Amazing.
Provides a lot of connection, provides a lot of support, brotherly support. And I went to this nonprofit event.
Yeah.
So that's where I met Demi, and she sung the Haitian national anthem.
What?
I was like,
I don't know that one. How does it go?
I felt like you were surprised too. I feel like,
was.
yeah, you were surprised. Yeah, so I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then again, I went to the Haitian Roundtable event. Saw you there. So I was like, all right, I have to follow Demi. She just has to be. She just has to be in my life.
Wow, I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Pure energy.
just briefly, like, what does being a singer mean to you, and how do you incorporate it in the different aspect of your life?
Yeah, I would say that just as an artist in general, right? It only makes sense if when you're plugged in with yourself and you are in alignment with yourself, that you can reflect the times as well, you know, so you can speak about, sing about, write about what it is that you see. But I feel like as a singer, I have a responsibility to just be real. I think people are not looking, specifically in this time, people are not looking for fairy tales, and they're not looking for cute bandages to put over cuts. They really want to be heard. You know, they want to cry when it's time to cry. They want the truth to be spoken when it's time to tell the truth and face the truth. And so, you know, as a creative, I have to be always in tune with myself, right? Because there are times where I can easily write a song, and then there are times where there's a lot of hesitation or writer's block. And those are the moments that I have to sort of sit back and say, okay, just let the time pass for a second, you know, like connect back with yourself, and then you'll be able to let it flow. So for me, the rule is energy. If I feel it, we make it happen. If I don't feel it, then I put.
And recently, also a rapper too.
I've been rhyming for so long.
Was it last week?
It's unbelievable. So here's the funny thing about life. Here I am singing, shooting videos, putting out videos, even throughout the pandemic. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I was enlisted in the project that is happening right now. So there is a hip hop project. It's called the International Cypher, right? And I'm a part of that. So I was like, okay, so they called me to do something. They sent me the track, and that track just ignited this whole, like,
rapping.
Yeah, the little rapper in me, right? Because the rapper, it existed like in the schoolyard, and me battling against boys and that kind of thing. And because of that, that literally has been the catalyst to, you know what, maybe I'll write to this track, or maybe I'll write to that track. So it's just something that just ignited in me. It's not like, good morning, I'm a rapper today. It's not that. It's just really just resonated with me.
I was watching the video. I was like, because like there's some singers that raps, where just like you could still hear like the.
Look at Lauren, she's
done
it, right?
You could still hear like the singer in them, right? But she was just like rapping. I'm like, okay.
She was rapping.
She has that cadence, huh?
Yeah, the cadence.
Oh, I gotta check you out.
Yeah.
Check you out.
But yeah, so just wanted to get into what you guys are doing and your personality and everything, but. Back to business. So 2020 election, like my friend right here, Rodrick, said, make sure you go vote. Voting is right now, actually.
Yeah.
Don't wait. You know, if you receive the ballot, send it out.
Yeah.
If you're gonna vote in person, if your state have early voting, go out there and vote. So my question for you guys: how do you think and Rodrick, you first. How do you think the country reacts? Trump win or Trump loses?
Oh, wow. Like, wow.
Wait, oh, you mean Trump loses or what?
Win or lose? So like, to me, I feel like if Trump win, we're gonna have. I feel like this bubble gonna burst. It's gonna be chaos. And then if he loses, the same thing.
Right.
That's my point of view. Right
Yeah,
now.
I mean, so first of all, I'm gonna talk to us black people.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because a lot of black people that go to church don't vote.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't understand why or how. I mean, because if you're not voting, you're voting.
Yeah.
If you are not, like voting, you're actually participating. You're still participating. That's your vote for the person that wins. Point blank, period. So, why not exercise your citizen right, that people died for and was brutalized for. Please, if you do anything, please vote. Your vote matters. You matter. Particularly if Donald Trump win or lose, I actually agree with you because 45 has been such a I think he's been like a conduit to just expose America of what America is, like that's one thing that I agree with my counter that like Trump has been good for America in the sense of exposing the ugly that we get to really see, feel, experience, and then like either stay in it or change, right? And so with 45, if he wins, we're activated, but we will be launched. We'll be launched. I mean, just because it's just like, come on. You know what I mean? And then if he loses, or when he loses, there's still gonna be a boil over. There's still gonna be a boil over. I am preparing myself. Like I already know what the mantra is for my community for next month. We know what the mantra is. Just for us to stay prepared for not whatever happens, but for the happening.
Yes.
It's for the happening and for the revealing that is going to come. And it's honestly, it's not. I don't even think it's even based on the election. It's just based on the times that we're in.
Yes.
We're like boiling over.
Absolutely.
There's so much that's happening right now. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Very good point.
How about you, Demi?
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments. First, I absolutely believe that people should get out and vote. You should get out and vote. And the myth is that black people are going to be voting Democratic and white folks are going to be voting Republican. It's just a lie. It's a lie, right? The truth of the matter is folks are going to vote for who they want to vote for, right? Ultimately, you exercising that right is, I feel, paying homage and respect to those that have come before us that have really died for that right. If and when, right? Like we don't know the if, the when. Yeah. Whatever comes of this election, there needs to be a place of preparation, as you mentioned. Trump has not operated solely as one person. Right. There's a residue of
there's a system.
Folks. There's a system behind him. There are people who back him up. And you know that is just not one man. It's an entire machine. So we have to keep that in mind. Yeah. And also be mindful about what it is that you want. Like I don't think we're asking ourselves that question enough. Like what do we want? What do we want? What do we demand? Is it better education? Is it more opportunities? Is it business loans to start a business versus putting a bunch of college students in debt? Like we have to really make sense of what do we want, because regardless of who takes the throne,
it will make a difference if you don't know what you want.
If you don't know what you want, right? It's like being knocked on the door by the fairy, right? That'll grant you every wish, but you haven't even thought about what you want. You might say, I want chocolate chip cookies, and there's an endless supply. Now you're just like, I don't want this, or it's just like. Be clear about what it is that you desire and the agenda that you're after, but ultimately be prepared to govern yourself, be prepared to elect yourself to the next level in your personal life, because ultimately that person will serve a term and you have a lifetime to sort of figure some things out and move some pieces of what you desire and what you want to manifest, with political interest or not. Get clear now, because
All right.
whomever's chosen, they're not the remedy.
Exactly.
They're not the remedy.
So tomorrow is the final debate between Trump and we remember how that first one went. It just didn't go at all.
Right.
Did you see the SNL skit? Did you see the SNL skit that followed it?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
You'll be crying. It was unbelievable.
So my last question for you guys to end the night, based on the election again. Yes, we were saying when and if.
Yeah.
So back to exactly what you were saying. What do we want? What do we expect from a Joe Biden presidency as Black people?
Yeah. I mean, so for me, so on his site, he has all these plans. He has plans for Black America, for equity. He has actual plans for equity. And I mean, what I want reparations. I want reparations so that, Black people we can all start, at the same line. I mean, I know for me within this pandemic, it took much longer to get the PPP, the loan that they went out. Like all of my white counterparts, or whatever, they got theirs, and I was just like, okay, I don't.
What about me?
Yeah, but I want reparation. I also want him to end immunity for policemen. It's like the police system. It has to be. I mean, for me, not just reform, but like defunded and completely reimagine how we do policing. That's a really big thing for me, as well as, I mean, Broadway, the arts. I mean, the first thing that gets cut is the funding for the arts. It's literally no money. I mean, like there are hundreds of thousands of artists that are out of work. That's all that they did was Broadway, and literally the time to come back is maybe May. As well as the criminal system, the way that it is now, it needs to be completely restructured. It needs to be completely restructured, because the way that it is now is still just a modern day slavery, for Black and brown people.
So we're wrapping up. How about you, Demi?
Yeah,
What do you expect?
I don't know what to expect, and perhaps that's probably a good space to be in, because I don't want to attach myself to an outcome. But I expect for there to be a response to what has been happening. Hopefully it'll be a sustained response, right? And not just one that's like, hi, I'm elected and this is what I'm gonna do.
Right.
Something that's really for the duration of the next 4 years and put in place to benefit us even after that 4 years. I mean, Rodrick mentioned so much, between police reforms to folks having the ability to live in America, right? Like those that are working, that have acquired an education here, should not feel like they have to choose between paying rent or eating, you know? And rights for women, Black women specifically.
Yes.
Well, guys, I can't thank you enough for being here.
Thank you.
Amazing conversation.
Thank you.
It went way better than I thought it was going to. We could sit down and talk about this thing all night and everything. But I want to thank GMGT for having us here. The State of Our Black Lives. Every third Wednesday of the month, we'll be having a show. Demi, Rodrick was my first guest. So blessed. Demi, do you have any place that people could follow you on Instagram?
Yes, you can find me at Demi DABADY on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, DEMI, Demi, and DABADY, DABADY.
Awesome. Rodrick?
You can find me at RODRICK Covington on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But Core Rhythm Fitness, if you at all have any inclination to, transform your body, mind, and spirit in health and fitness.
Amazing. And me, you can find me at Sir_GARVENCHY. Instagram, Facebook. Again, have a good evening, everyone. Rodrick, amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Demi,
Thank
amazing.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's play that music.
I know.
All right, guys, I got you some gifts.
Beautiful. All right, whatever.